In lieu of all the news and drama around Devil May Cry and the mixed reviews around how good it is, it may be an adaptation, but it's not accurate, etc., it led to me wanting to have a discussion that I feel like I've wanted to have for a while now in regards to this particular topic. Today, I want to discuss just how closely an adaptation should follow the source material. Let's get into it.
You're now watching The Captain.
So adaptations. People are very opinionated as they normally are on the internet in regards to anything, let alone stuff about their favorite nerd material. I feel like we've seen a lot of good adaptations and a lot of bad adaptations. When you're looking at stuff like the Sonic movies, people will absolutely rave over those, and that's something that people love. And then you have stuff like the Mortal Kombat movies that have been coming out recently, and then another one has been announced to come out soon. So we've seen it good and bad on both sides of the spectrum. But the key question that I think for me that I like to ask to you guys, and that you guys may be thinking, is how closely should an adaptation follow the source material? I personally feel as though when you are adapting a story, you are doing yourself a really big disservice when you are not trying to improve upon where the predecessor failed. And that is not me saying that inherently every story needs improvement, but I do feel like every story has room to improve. I don't think there is any story ever told in any medium that is 100% without its faltering. I think that's what makes it great. I think that's what makes art and storytelling amazing, are those imperfections. I think nothing should be perfect in regards to art because those imperfections are what make it perfect. Now, in the pursuit of evolution and pushing art forward, I do feel like you should try your best to improve or add your own spin on the art that was previously there in whatever form it may be. And I think that's the case when this comes to like adaptations like the Devil May Cry series or any video game adaptation, any movie, any comic book, etc., etc. Try to tell the story that you feel is most significant to you and use that source material as a way to unload that message. And I think that's part of the reason why I love comic books so much. Comic books, for the really fresh nerds that aren't aware, comic books in general are written by different people over time. You have not had one person or one same line of people write Wolverine forever since his inception into Marvel Comics. You've had a bunch of different writers come through and give what they believe to be the best Wolverine story is as time goes on. The best example of this being done in a great light is the current Storm run that we have going on right now that started in 2024. Mawewa Adeyele is the writer for that, and he has, in my opinion, probably one of the best takes on Storm that I've seen in a very long time in regards to keeping the elements of what make the character while also adding in what he feels should be prioritized in that story. So what do I mean when I say there's always room to improve in regards to past art? Over the past couple years, there have been a bunch of different adaptations that have happened that have been really great. From The Last of Us, the Invincible series, the Sonic movies that are coming out. These are all examples of things that, for the most part, people absolutely adore. But these stories don't always 100% follow the script that was laid out by the original material. So let's break down and look at the Sonic movies. The Sonic movies, in no regard, in my memory, again, y'all remind me if I'm just too young to remember the story of the Sonic games originally, but they didn't involve the family or the small town that are in the Sonic movies now. Or they didn't involve this particular version of Dr. Eggman and the way that Jim Carrey characterizes the character. He wasn't that comedic. He felt like he was more serious in tone in the original material. But the creators took it upon themselves to say, hey, how do we take this thing and adapt it for a young audience now that are into Sonic, that we trying to get into Sonic, because Sonic is an older IP. How do we keep this thing fresh for a younger audience, and how do we also keep this thing enjoyable and loyal and nostalgic for the people that are fans of the character in the past? Well, let's put him in a new setting. Let's keep a lot of his things that make him in the story, and let's make it dope. And that's how those movies happen. In a more small way, you're looking at something like The Last of Us. For the most part, 100%, The Last of Us series follows the plot of The Last of Us games. But there are moments in the show where the writers take a little bit of due diligence and try to expound upon things that were just laid out in a minuscule way. The biggest episode is the episode, I think it was episode like 4 or 5 in the first season, where you have, and again, I'm blanking on the characters' names right now, but the two gay men that met one another, and we got to see their life from start to end. This in the video game, for what I remember, was like a small portion, is kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of the game itself. Like you see the note and you kind of get a little bit of background on who they were, but all the stuff that we got in regards to their tendencies, their relationship, the depths of their relationship, how the relationship started, that episode to me was one of the more beautiful parts of the entire season to me, with the writing, how much they made you care for these characters in such a small amount of time, and how dope it was. And that was something that was grown off of a small piece of the overall game. These are the things that I mean when I say always try to improve upon the material where it may have been lacking. Not saying that the story is any worse for not expounding upon these small things, but when somebody has a creative vision and they can take something, a small piece of something, and create their own, I think that amplifies the original material so much more. Again, I go back to comics again, because when you're looking at some of the best versions of characters, some of the best types of stories that we've gotten that involve certain characters like Miles Morales and things like that, that were just originally just not adaptations per se, but creators taking creative liberty to try to add to this original material, to this source material, and make it even better. Now, comics are a little bit different because, you know, when people do that, sometimes that becomes the new original material as things grow on and go on over time. But for the most part, this is usually a beneficial thing, I feel like, in the grand scheme of the legacy of a original material piece being carried on, as well as just the overall creative minds that are able to come up and add their own influence and perspective into things. Because I feel like when you do this, you push that original material forward and the longevity of it forward even more. I'm looking at something like Sonic. Again, I don't believe Sonic was ever going to go anywhere in regards to popularity, but I guarantee you there are going to be a new generation of children that are going to love Sonic the Hedgehog in the same way that their fathers and grandfathers did, if not more, based off of those Sonic movies. And we'll probably get games that are, you know, pandered towards that younger audience that the older audience can also enjoy. This is what art should be, in my opinion, in regards to an adaptation. An adaptation should never be a one-to-one retelling of the story. Now, on the flip side, I will acknowledge the benefits that has, because if you're looking at something like anime and manga, right? For the most part, anime is usually 100% retelling of the art and the original material that you see in a manga. In very rare occurrences, you do see changes to the story, or maybe some things cut out in regards to helping pacing, maybe some filler being cut, etc., etc. It depends. But for the most part, the story is one-to-one. Now, in me saying that, I do still feel like there's room for the anime to improve upon some of the manga stuff. I feel like that's what it should be. You should take this original manga and say, hey, I'll give you this story, but how can I expound upon this story and make this thing great or different in a way that is positive towards respecting the original source material. Usually in anime, that is done through the fight scenes, because in a shonen or any other anime that has a fight scene in it, the manga, you honestly don't get to see the fight scene because they're just images on a page. But when you get into animating that thing, you have the liberty to drag that thing out and make it amazing. When you're looking at some of the bigger fights in anime history, with like the Madara fighting the third Shinobi Alliance, or Goku fighting Vegeta in the original Saiyan Saga, these are moments that you see in the manga, but they're legendary moments in animation because you got to see these things expounded upon. This is why I stand kind of where I stand on it. And I understand that my perspective is not the same perspective that everybody shares. So I make this video to ask this question to you. It's something that I pondered in this video and kind of had a little bit of dialogue on, but I do genuinely want to have this conversation to you all in the comment section below. If you guys want to have more of a conversation with me in person, you guys can have it in the Discord that is linked in the description below, that I have for me and a lot of people that are like-minded in the community that want to have conversations around all the nerdy stuff and just have a safe environment. If that doesn't float your boat, I stream on this YouTube channel in a series I do called the Captain's Lounge, where I get on and have conversations with a bunch of dope artists, creatives, and just genuinely good people that I like to have conversations with in a podcast style format. If that doesn't float your boat, again, I stream video games on here and I play games on the channel. So if you are new to me, Captain Diesel and Captain Diesel Dojo, please subscribe, like, just to help these videos get around more and really support the channel for the free ski. And yeah, man, let me know how you feel about this topic. This is a topic that I feel like people are somewhat disingenuous on for the most part, because they kind of flip-flop, because there'll be things like the Marvel universe in which they love how some things were adapted in that standpoint, from the original phases, like the original phase 1 through however many up until Infinity War. And then there are moments where they're like, oh, I wish this was adapted in this way versus this thing. So it's a lot there. So I know I'm rambling again, but I'll finish with the video just by saying thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for supporting me and the channel. And again, be good people. Have a great day. Peace.